And now for an amazing true story. From the book of John, chapters 18 and 19.
After Jesus and his friends ate the Passover meal together, they walked toward the Garden of Gethsemane. Along the way, Jesus promised that even though things were about to get dark, God would make it right in the end.
In this world you will have trouble, but be encouraged. I have won the battle over the world.
Soon Jesus and his friends crossed a valley and climbed up to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. Within moments, soldiers arrived, sent by the Jewish religious leaders to arrest Jesus.
Who do you want?
Jesus of Nazareth.
I am he.
Jesus was tied up and taken to the high priest. His friends scattered, though Peter and another disciple snuck along behind until they got into the courtyard. 3 times, bystanders accused Peter of being Jesus' friend.
You were with Jesus.
3 times, Peter denied it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So even one of Jesus' closest friends had pretended not to know him. Jesus was truly alone as fake witnesses spoke lies about him, and the high priest sent him to be condemned by the Roman governor, Pilate.
What charges are you bringing against this man?
He's committed crimes. Says he's a king.
Pilate questioned Jesus directly.
Are you the king of the Jews?
My kingdom is not from this world. I was born and came into the world to be a witness to the truth. Everyone who is on the side of truth listens to me.
Pilate could find nothing that Jesus had done wrong, so he had soldiers whip Jesus and then went out to address the religious leaders.
I want to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him.
Pilate brought Jesus up before them once again, now dressed in a purple robe with a crown of thorns pressed on his head.
Crucify him!
Crucify him!
Pilate didn't want to make this crowd angry or get in trouble with his Roman bosses, so he went along with what they wanted. He sentenced Jesus to die and handed him over to the soldiers.
You, carry this.
Jesus had to drag his own cross along the dusty road. The soldiers led him to a hill outside the city called Golgotha. A few of Jesus' friends straggled behind, including his mother Mary, several other women, and John. They could barely watch as a soldier nailed Jesus' hands and feet to the cross and set it up high in place.
How can they do this? He's done nothing wrong. Everyone knows it.
They don't need a reason.
Look, they're crucifying those other 2 men with him. Real lawbreakers.
Nearby, a group of religious leaders kept careful distance from both the soldiers and Jesus' cross.
He saved others. Let him save himself.
If he really is God's Messiah, the chosen one.
Others joined in mocking Jesus too.
What's that sign over his head?
Says he's the king of the Jews.
Hey, king of the Jews! Save yourself!
Even one of the lawbreakers hanging on his own cross gathered enough breath to laugh at Jesus.
Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself. Save us!
The second lawbreaker called out to the first one.
Don't you have any respect for God? We are being punished fairly. But this man hasn't done anything wrong.
Jesus, please remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Even though it must have been painful, Jesus turned his gaze to the man beside him.
Today, you will be with me in paradise.
John stared down at the dry, stony ground. It was easier than watching his friend die.
Could this get any worse?
Look!
Jesus' mother pointed to the soldiers. They were sorting through Jesus' clothes.
Huh. Nice robe. Love the weave. I call first dibs. No way. We'll roll for it.
Mary began to weep. John glanced up to see Jesus looking down at them, deep compassion in his eyes.
Dear woman, here is your son. John, here is your mother.
John wrapped his arm around Mary's shoulder to support her.
I'll take care of her. I promise.
Soon, deep darkness covered the land, even though it was the middle of the day. Jesus knew that God was still at work, but he must have felt completely alone.
My God, why have you deserted me?
He struggled to breathe, his throat dry and gritty with dust.
I am thirsty.
One of the soldiers hoisted up a sponge dipped in vinegar on the end of a stick.
Kinda sour, but hardly matters now, does it?
Jesus took a sip of the bitter liquid and choked it down. Now everything he had come to do was complete.
It is finished.
Slowly, he lowered his head and took one last rasping breath. Then he died.
He could have saved himself, but he didn't.
Slowly, the soldiers and religious leaders shuffled away. Jesus' friends were left there in the dim light, the dry desert wind whipping their faces. Their friend, the man that they thought came from God, was dead. They couldn't see how God could make anything good from this. But even in the dark, God was still at work.